Doug, I want to ask you a question because in my observation, you tell me if I'm right or wrong in my thought here. I think one of your really strong attributes is the fact that you're such a good listener, and like you. So I find with some people they don't listen. They don't listen to younger people. They think I know the way, I know the way, I know the way, and I think this ties into the book that you're writing with Matt and Max with the preparation. You're a really good listener, and you listen to young people and understand what they're going through right now. Is that fair for me to say?
Well, for a number of reasons, I suppose. It's easier to listen than it is to talk. One's passive, the other's active. But also, you can't learn anything when you're talking. You can only learn something if you're listening. But if what I'm listening to, if I detect that it's basically not worth listening to, then I'll end that conversation too. Yeah, but of course I like to listen to people. I'm entertained. We live in an entertainment society, and I like to be entertained as much as anybody else.
This episode is brought to you by Vaulted. Launched by McElvaney Financial Group, with Vaulted, I literally just tap a button and I own physical gold stored in a professional vault. Vaulted is offering all of my listeners $50 of free gold when you click on my sign up link. They have a tool called Vault Plan that allows you to passively add your gold position every month. Just activate it for 6 months and you will get $50 of free gold in your account. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to vaulted.blbvux.net/coffeeandamike. Well,
Although I mainly entertain myself, but not by talking.
well, also though, like for younger people, I really think, and you've talked about this. I mean, the times that we're heading into, we're already in, but it's going to get more chaotic. And I feel like my generation, I mean, I'm 47, is going to feel the brunt of it because I knew a different time where I was the last group of people that played outside. We didn't have technology. We didn't have smartphones. We didn't have all these devices. And for young people, like to go through college, put themselves in debt, go work at some corporate job that they hate, it's going to buying a house. It's going to be extremely difficult.
Yes, it is. Yeah, the world has changed. Unfortunately, uh, I'm old enough at this point. I hate to admit it. I hate to even confront the fact that, you know, I, I turned 79 years old not so long ago. And you live that long in a world that's changed as rapidly as this one has, uh, because of population growth, because of an explosion of technology, a lot of reasons. Uh, yeah, you're quite, you're quite, you're quite correct. I don't know. It's very different, and it may all fall apart too. I mean, the best way to predict the future has always been, generally speaking, to take a straight rule and see what's happening and just plot the line. Okay, but sometimes there are discontinuities that come out of nowhere. Well, like the death of the dinosaurs, for instance. Everything looked fine until one day in the late Cretaceous when everything changed. And the same thing can happen, I think, to our society. And I'm not talking just about the US. Uh, I'm talking about Western civilization in particular. So, like I said, it's fun to observe.
Do you do
I'm,
you
enter- I'm, I'm entertained by the process. It's kind of a black comedy watching it all happen.
It's become a real life reality show.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. And incidentally, since so much of what we know, or I should say, think we know, uh, comes across electronically, like on videos that we're on right now, it's hard to figure out what's real and what is, at this point, an AI or fabricated in some way. I mean, all that I really trust is my firsthand knowledge of what I see with my own eyes and hear with my own ears, non-electronically, I should say. But on the other hand, if that's my only source of input, I mean, here I am right now. I'm on my farm in Uruguay, and my outside stimulus, other than electronically or books, which are wonderful, but we don't see as much of them as we used to. I mean, this is my backyard. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Oh, wow.
It's a it's a giant field. There's no cows there now. I've got about I don't know, about 150 cows, but there's someplace else. So I can watch them and I can play with the dogs and a few other things. But well, that's what living like on a farm is like as a gentleman farmer. If I was a real farmer, I'd be up at 6 a.m. and working until the sun went down. And I'm not interested in that. I don't have to do it. It's very tough work and largely non-remunerative. But I do like living on a farm.
But you've traveled. I mean, you'd said was it 155 plus countries? Have you been all over the United States?
I've been to every state in the union and a good part of most of the states, even big ones like Texas and California, everywhere but Maine. I haven't been to Maine,
Is that going
but
to be?
I've been to the Canadian Maritimes north of Maine, so that's more or less the same thing.
Is Maine going to be on your list at some point?
Not particularly. Kind of been there, done that. In fact, a friend of mine has invited me to come on a jaunt with him to Azerbaijan in, when is it? I don't know, it's September or something like that. And I'm tempted because he hasn't been clear, but apparently there's some university in Azerbaijan that wants to give me some kind of an honorary degree. I don't know. This is just scuttlebutt that's what he says. And I'm tempted to go because I've never been to Azerbaijan, but I've kind of been there and done that. The fact is that when you've been almost everywhere in the world, it's more or less true in my case. There's about 200 countries in the world. I've been to over 155 or 60, something like that. So I still got some blank spots on my map, including some big ones, like India is a blank spot on my map. But after a while, it's kind of, I've been there and done that. Do I really need to absorb more historic buildings or poor people groveling for roots and berries or more restaurants? Or no, not really.
Well, and the other thing is too, you of all people know this. Everything is such a hassle today, especially in the United States. Traveling, it's just such a
Oh,
hassle.
God, it's not what it used to be. You know, it wasn't so long ago. Look, I've told this story before that in the 60s, when I was a kid, uh, you could get on a plane carrying a couple of guns, which I did, flying from Chicago to DC and back, both ways, with a rifle and a pistol, both. Just put them in my overhead compartment. Nobody thought at all about it. Uh, Look, before then, uh, God, it's amazing. People watch the Indiana Jones movies, and yes, it's true that in the 30s, Indy really could travel with his pistol openly displayed almost anywhere. So even in the 60s, 30 years after the 30s, when Indiana Jones was rampant, you could still kind of do that. But now, forget about it. Going through TSA and all this type of thing, it's thoroughly degrading and a nuisance and costly. And anyway, everybody travels today. It's a mob scene. There was uh, there was a couple of graphs that I came across the other day, and you know that in 1970, which I know is ancient history, and long before most listeners on the show were born, so it's irrelevant to them. It's like the day of the dinosaur, but wasn't that long ago, actually. that only 2% of the American population had passports. Not many at all. Now, half of Americans have passports, and they all travel on cruise ships or something like that usually. But yeah, the world's changed a lot.
Well, and there was at a time too back then. I mean, you didn't need your passport to leave the country, and now they're working on forcing everybody to get the real ID.
You're quite correct. You certainly didn't need it to cross over into Canada. I mean, you really didn't need anything to cross over into Canada. Certainly not if you drove. Yeah, the world's changed, and the big problem, from my point of view, is that the state has grown so much in recent years. It's been growing at an accelerating rate. Most people are unaware of the fact that before World War One, governments, not just in the US, but everywhere in the world, took 5%, maybe at most 10% of the economy. And they were a nuisance, but not a serious nuisance most of the time for most people. But now governments all over the world and here in the United States take 40 or 50% of everything, and they're everywhere, regulating everything. So the world has changed a great deal and at an accelerating rate in that way, being told what you must do and what you can't do. And that includes Donald Trump, incidentally. I mean, we got to say a word about Donald Trump. Uh, I mean, you know, he's where he wants to be, the center of the universe right now. And yes, I guess he has to live rent free in our heads too.
Well, and you've been critical. You've not held back at all on how your feelings towards him. So where do they sit today with him and what they're doing?
Well, let me preface my comments by saying that I am definitely not afflicted by Trump derangement syndrome. And if I voted, I definitely would have voted for Trump as opposed to Kamala, who has no redeeming virtues whatsoever of any kind. And some of the things that Trump believes have actually been positive. Like, for instance, he's a cultural conservative. He's opposed, not for philosophical reasons, but for gut reasons, to wokeism and things of that nature. It's wonderful, and he's doing the best that he probably can to overturn all that crap. But is there anything else that the Donald is doing that's good? No, he's essentially a statist. He's just a cultural conservative. That's what people like. He doesn't want to overturn the whole basis of American civilization, which is what the Democrats really want to do. They genuinely do. So that's a good thing about Donald. And insofar as he stopped that huge onrushing trend, I guess he's a good thing. But a lot of the things that he's doing are really stupid and destructive. So really mixed bag at best. Anyway, what were you saying about Donald before I went off on
No,
that
no,
little tangent?
I almost wonder, and share this with you. Tell me what you think. If she would have got elected, would it even have mattered? Will we still end up in the same place? More surveillance here in the United States,
Good point.
financial controls. Matt and I were talking about this last week. The CBDC. Now he pointed out, it's not fully implemented yet, but when the digital controls and the financial instruments line up, then they'll have full reign on everything. And that's where I think this is heading. You guys have talked about that.
Oh yeah, I think you're completely right. As a as a financial guy, I'm a believer in the dictum: trends in motion tend to stay in motion, and the trend towards more control, more taxes, more inflation, more government, et cetera, it's firmly in motion and it's accelerating. So, absolutely right. Things are going to get worse before they get better. if they get better. There's no guarantees that things will get better, but at some point, I think soon, but I've always thought it would be a lot sooner than, well, there's a dictum that I think I formulated. At least I haven't heard anybody else say it before I said it. It's that, let's see, what is it? Uh, Things that you expect to happen usually take much longer than you think to happen. But once they get underway, they happen much more quickly. So it's like, well, it's a variation of what Hemingway said. How do you go bankrupt? Slowly, and then all of a sudden, or words to that effect. I forget his exact quote. But it's like that, I think, with what's going on in the U.S. At this point. The sucker's going to go down some way or another, whether it's in a civil war, not like at all like the unpleasantness between 1861 and 65, which wasn't a civil war, incidentally. It was a secession movement, or maybe there's a lot of varieties of this, but I think things have a good chance of getting unglued.
Well, it's a whole notion of, it's important to understand history and know history, but history never repeats itself. And I wrote on X last night, I said something along the lines of, Obama, that is not going anywhere, in my opinion. Like, he's not going to get arrested. The people below him are not going to get arrested because it's just it's not the Washington way.
No, it's not. You're absolutely right. It'll be, just one more scandal that's swept under the rug. I mean, they talk about Reagan being the Teflon president, but Obama is too. I mean, it seems to be a fact, or how do I know? But it seems likely, that he's always been a homosexual, and was frequenting Chicago bath clubs where he was acting as a rent-a-boy. But I think that's a fact based on testimony. But it's just, Fido, bucket, drive on. People don't care. So yeah, nothing will happen with this thing either.
And there are people that still love him. There are groups of people that still love him. And can you imagine, like, the first black president is under arrest? They're not going to do that.
No, can't do that. No, it doesn't matter. And you're right. It doesn't matter. It almost doesn't. You can't start jailing high government officials because that would kind of be like the little boy crying, "The king has no clothes," and being believed. And you can't have that. You can't have this charade be unmocked. So, yeah, you're right, Mike. There'll be a scandal, there'll be a kerfuffle, maybe some fines will be levied, or, some minor officials will be, jailed for a while. But the big guys are all part of a club. And, they're part of a club. You don't kick them out.
I always, and not that anybody will know the psychology behind it, but my question is, why does this get put out now? Because Tulsi Gabbard, like Pam Bondi, they answer to somebody, right? They answer to the White House. So why is this coming out now?
Maybe Tulsi Gabbard is a little bit of a loose cannon. It's interesting having watched her. It's clear that she's a leftist, a Democrat, basically, when it comes to anything that's social welfare, this type of thing. I mean, she's certainly a Democrat from that point of view. But at the same time, she doesn't like these Praetorian agencies. She can see that they're dangerous, really dangerous. I mean, in her position, if she turns over the wrong rock, I wouldn't doubt that they'll kill her, frankly. I mean, these guys that are running a government within a government and have lots of guns and lots of basically hired killers that do what they're told, if it looks like they're going to get in serious trouble, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to have her commit suicide or have an unfortunate accident than it is. which would teach the next person a little bit of a lesson. Don't dig too deep on this stuff. So there's all kinds of reasons why these investigations are not going to go anywhere. And you think, well, maybe the American people now will finally see, you know, the corruption and so forth. But no, they won't. Most of them are on Zoloft and Prozac and 100 other similar things, not to mention fentanyl and and just blowing dope all day. That they really don't. It's just a small portion of people that well, like the people that listen to your podcast, or some of them, I suppose. But they're not going to go out in the streets with pitchforks and torches. That's not going to happen.
Well, Doug, here's the other thing with that. Yeah, I'm kind of smirking because I hear that with people say, "We'll take our guns to the street. We'll take our guns to the street." And the question that
that's bullshit. That's bullshit.
What are you going to shoot at,
big
Doug?
Talk, no action.
What are you going to shoot at? Or like if you take your gun down to the Capitol in Phoenix where I live, you're going against technology. And I get people that are history buffs, and they'll say, "Well, the samurai and this." I'm like, "Okay, but this is an invisible enemy. It's technology. You can't. They'll debank you. They'll just credit card you. They'll shadow ban you, suppress you on social media where you can't communicate with anybody. You have to go live with a family member because your credit card won't work."
Yes. Well, that's right. And if you become acknowledged as an enemy of the state, a so-called bad guy, you'll lose your job. And everybody's got a mortgage and car payments and credit card debt and school debt. And they can't afford to not be good little lambs. And forget about doing anything violent, because all the police and the military are also in that same position. They have to do what they're told or they'll lose their jobs. So they'll round you up, and if you shoot at them, there'll be 100 more that'll land on you. And forget about it. The system has to collapse almost by. These things have a life of their own. So I'm not trying to be what's the word I'm looking for? Defeatist. But you got to see which way the wind's blowing at the same time.
I had somebody message me last night saying, I like your show, but you're just a little too you're too doomer for me, and it's not helping. And I said, okay, what do you want me to do? Like, you want me to lie and say everything's going to be okay? I'm with you. I don't see it that way. And you try to be objective. Look where we're at. I mean, you just listed off several things in our country, in the United States, that you can't just easily fix this.
No, you can't. No, you can't. It's become part of the culture. The culture has basically been corrupted gradually over the last 100 years, and at an accelerating rate. And people that have woke or statist or socialist or Marxist or collectivist views have totally captured the educational system and have been and still are corrupting the youth. They've captured the top of corporations. They've captured churches. I mean, it's a culture. The entertainment industry, totally woke, which kind of lets people see the way things ought to be as they watch their idols on the screen and so forth. So what's going to turn it around? Well, it will turn around, I think, because reality exists, but it's tough. It really is. And at this point, when you just talked about it, some guy says, well, I'll go out with my AR-15 and take care of business. No, you won't. It would make no sense. You'd just be sacrificing yourself. The best thing to do if you're on the Titanic is abandon ship. Don't go down with the fucking ship.
Well, and I think, when people will say, well, you're not providing any solution, and I think you said it best, the system has to crash. And, I had Paul Craig Roberts on last week and with Gary Haven. Good. And, and he had said, he said something kind of interesting that stuck in my mind, where he's like, the digital world that we're moving into, he's like, the hackers are going to have more control because they can break these systems. And which I just never heard that perspective before. But also, as individuals, that's all you can do is try to, withdraw from the system the best that you can. And at some point it will crash. And also he had pointed out like all these layers of technology and processes and workflows, and it gets so complex that eventually it breaks.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. The system becomes so top heavy that it just can't exist. Like uh, if you look at what's happened to the education business and the medical business, those two in particular, they've become hugely top heavy with administrators, huge numbers of administrators throughout education and medicine. And those administrators are essentially worthless. You need some, but they're so no, it can't continue. But things have a life of their own, and it's like a flock of birds. They all kind of fly together. In other words, forget about the individual bird, which is too bad, but the flock is going wherever it's going. And that's what the civilization's like. So we'll have to see where the flock, which has a life of its own, is going to go. Kind of a communal intelligence. And right now it's kind of a communal stupidity. So I'm not optimistic at all. On the other hand, I've always been essentially an optimist because the average guy is wired like a squirrel. He understands that you got to produce more than you consume to set aside the difference called saving. That builds capital. Society gets richer. Okay, good. There's a lot of reasons why that's not working the way it used to anymore. And the other thing is technology, which is really why we're not, rooting in the earth for grubs at this point. It's because of technology. But that can fall apart too. So let's see what happens. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. It could be we go back into the dark age, or maybe, we actually do continue ascending towards the stars, or maybe humanity splits off into two groups like the Morlocks and the Eloi. I mean, there's lots of possible alternatives.
I liked one of your conversations. You were talking about insurance and what your thoughts are like on health insurance, because you brought up the healthcare system, health insurance and auto insurance.
I prefer to call it the medical care system because it doesn't insure your health in any way, just medical problems, different things. It's part of the corruption of the language, but go ahead. I'm sorry, I
No, no,
interrupted.
no, not at all. Just your, for people that haven't listened and I encourage everyone to subscribe to Doug's show, which I'll put the links on it. But your thoughts on what of health insurance, if you wouldn't mind sharing your opinion of it.
Well, I don't call it, once again, don't call it health insurance, call it medical insurance. But I don't have medical insurance. Uh, well, whether I like it or not, I've got Part A of Medicare, uh, which I paid for many years. It pays hospital bills, not doctor bills. Uh, but you know, health insurance, medical insurance. What do you do about it? It's beastly expensive. I don't know exactly what the cost of a medical insurance policy are. It's so contorted. The government pays so much for a lot of people, and most people get it free with Medicare or Medicaid or welfare. And those that are left, I don't know what things really cost anymore. But I guess if you have in a place like New York anyway, if you're buying medical insurance, you're probably paying $1,000 a month. Uh, and if something really serious happens, well, maybe you got to accept like a dread disease or you get cancer. Maybe you got to accept the fact that, you know what, people die and it's going to happen to me too. But, or, but basically, what you should do, I think, is put that money aside and make it grow so you can pay your own medical bills. Like if your car breaks, somebody's got to pay. You don't get insurance that pays for your car bills. If the transmission seizes up, you got to pay for it. Same thing with your body. Your body's just your primary possession. So I don't know if that's the point that you were looking for, because I made a lot of points about it, but that's the way I feel about it. Cut your expenses, and I hate dealing with these big insurance companies. They're all about delaying and denying claims if they can. It's really part of the drill today. So you don't need it. You don't want it.
Well, it's just everything's a grift, right? Like auto
It's
insurance
a
and
grift.
homeowners insurance, and
Yeah, exactly. The people that buy that stuff, there's a tremendous moral risk. And the insurance companies appreciate that. They appreciate that many of the people that buy the insurance are bad risks, and they know it. That's why they want to buy the insurance. And people that are good risks, if things are as distorted and expensive as they are today, don't want to buy it. So it's not to say that the insurance business isn't a great business. I mean, it's treated Warren Buffett really well for perfectly logical reasons, but I want to avoid it as much as possible.
well, and the other thing is too, you can't find out the cost of anything in America, right? If you need a procedure, you can't shop it around. You can't shop an MRI. It's you have to go here, or else you're out of network, and you're going to pay more, and you
Yeah.
don't know what things truly cost.
No, exactly. Like uh, I know better than most people what things cost. I'll tell you why. Because being very international, having, like I said, lived in a dozen countries and traveled many times to well over 150, I've got a grip on what medical systems are like in other places that are politicized in different ways. Also, the co-author of my series of novels, of which there are three now, I guess there'll soon be four, is John Hunt. He's an MD who he's a pulmonologist by specialty. But what he really does, he doesn't practice anymore. He just keeps his license up. What he really does is keep track of medical costs, and he knows how to negotiate. And this is one of the things he does for a living is keep track of costs and negotiate the costs of procedures because he knows how the system works. So yeah, you can get around it, but the average guy who doesn't have the technical knowledge about medical things, it's really tough, really tough. And your doctor's not on your side anyway. You know, most of what's in a doctor's office is not medical records per se. It's obligatory government bookkeeping records. I mean, your doctor can't get along just with the nurse. He's got to have lots of administrators to follow the laws and prescriptions and all this type of thing. The whole system's broken. Anyway, if I had a really serious medical problem that could be dealt with by surgery, I'd probably fly to Thailand. Top care of all types for, a quarter, 20% of the cost here or less, or less.
Well, and the other thing is too, you have these ICD codes where so you have to, as a physician. First of all, if you're an independent physician, you can't survive. You have to join, these large healthcare systems, where then you're at the mercy of doing things, the protocols that they want you to do. Or you are seeing a parallel system now, and I've had some of these doctors on where you can pay the subscription based per month. And if you need to do a consultation, you can, they can do prescriptions and what have you. But from a surgical standpoint, you can't, you have to go through one of these healthcare systems, and it's they're interested in getting you on the operating room and on the table rather than providing solutions that are outside of that, or getting you on some type of pharmaceutical prescription.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're right. It's it's not good. I guess it's one reason why I like Western movies. Uh, the world was simpler in those days in so many ways, including from a moral and ethical point of view. But that was then. This is now. And, we're moving into something that's kind of a melange between 1984 and Brave New World. It's not good. The direction is not good. And Trump is not, I mean, he's throwing some sand on the slippery slope along the way in some areas, but generally speaking, he's going with the negative trend. So, not good. Anyway, this might yet wind up with World War III, where almost everything around you is a smoking ruin, assuming that World War III isn't a biological war, which I think is more likely, or a cyber war, which is more likely. The whole world would collapse if computers didn't work anymore. I mean, quickly collapse, or or perhaps some type of a you know clever guerrilla war started in the U.S. by some of the young male migrants, which are here with. There's all kinds of possibilities. It's like writing sci-fi, trying to figure out what's going to happen in the future. I mean, there are people that think they have computer programs that'll predict all this stuff. It's total horseshit.
Do you what I'm amazed by right now, and I don't know, you wonder with all this stuff, is it by design? That's where I'm all screwed up in the head too, because it's like, is this stuff by design? Is it not by design? But
Oh yeah.
the people that are speaking out against Israel right now, like in the mainstream, who would ever thought 3 years ago you'd be hearing some of this on the right, where people are really starting to question it? And I'm like, is this being done intentionally? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you know, blacks or a subset of blacks are, you know, so corrupted by the whole wokest trend that has been accelerating that instead of being sympathetic to them, I'm suffering from black fatigue. And Jews, I'm suffering from Jew fatigue and Israel fatigue and all these things where all these people uh, are grouping themselves according to their identity. And it's their little group against the world. And, it's destructive, it's stupid, whether they know it or not. It's actually counterproductive. So, and as far as Israel is concerned, what should the U.S. government do? Nothing. They're not our ally. I don't even think they're our friend. They're just another country. So it's up to the U.S. to stay out of their business. I mean, just non-intervention, not isolationism. That implies a whole different set of things. It's just non-interventionism. I wish the Israelis and the Palestinians and all those people, I wish them all well. But I don't want to get involved in their Hatfields and McCoy wars. Forget that. Nothing. No money, no arms, nothing. Why should we bankrupt ourselves? Why should we bankrupt ourselves to make things worse by intervening? The government actually doesn't know what it's doing. And arms of it are running at counter purposes. It's actually insane, criminally insane.
What do you think this whole Epstein and the fact that they are not releasing information, do you think that's going to ultimately bring this administration down in terms of public sentiment, or will it just go away like everything else?
There's a good chance that it's going to grow and things will be released, and maybe people in the blogosphere or something will get so pissed off. I mean, anything can happen. Uh, Governments have fallen because of these things. But the problem is the institution of government itself, the institution of the state itself. And people still accept that and think it's good and necessary, and it's kind of like a friendly big brother. And so, however this thing sorts itself out, probably not with any high government officials going to jail, maybe a few fines, wrist slaps, but like George Carlin said, they're in a big club and they stick together, and you're not part of it. Neither am I. So I can only hope that they'll immanentize the eschaton, as it were, that things will get a little bit out of control because I'm a believer. Actually, on the one hand, I don't want to see anything get out of control because it would be so unpleasant and inconvenient for really the kind of upset that could and should happen. So I don't want to see anything happen. But on the other hand, I'm a great believer in the Roman dictum, let justice be done, though the heavens may fall. Because you sweep things under the carpet, you have to deal with it eventually. And I'd rather somebody else deal with it. But if it has to happen, it should happen now, because I'm a great believer in justice. Answer to the question, I don't know. But it certainly should. This is a major scandal. There's the bribery and the blackmail and the suiciding and the hidden criminality. I mean, it's just awful. So I hope they pull this thread and the whole sweater unravels. Well, listen, hey, I can talk. I'm here in Uruguay. I can watch this shit on my widescreen. I don't have to watch it out my front window like people still in the U.S. would if that happens.
Yeah, Paul. When I had Paul last week, he said, if this whole thing is a hoax, then why is Ghislaine Maxwell still in jail? Her attorneys should be getting her out.
Yeah, she should testify and say exactly what's happening. But Trump doesn't want to see that happen because he's got a lot of buddies, if not himself. I don't think he's that perverted, frankly. So I don't think he would be diddling little girls. That's not his style, I don't think. But lots of his buddies are going to get in deep trouble with this stuff. You don't know where this is going to lead. And it's really odd that only two people with this major scandal and all these victims, who apparently really do exist, who were taken advantage of, nobody's guilty but Ghislaine and Epstein. I mean, it doesn't make sense. So they're hiding something. And that's going to bite Trump in the ass. People have learned you can't trust him. Look, he's a con man. I mean, like what I said, I don't have derangement syndrome, but the guy is a bullshit artist. He'll say anything. He has no philosophical core whatsoever. So I think there's a good chance that he's going to be, that they're going to, what's the word for kicking you? They've done this to him several times already, but failed. I'm missing the word. He'll be
arrested again, indicted, impeached.
Impeached, of course. I think he'll be impeached again, and it might succeed this time, because listen, how can you predict these things? But I think that people are so disgusted with the Republicans, who are worthless, basically, anyway. I mean, they're actually more dangerous than the Democrats in many ways. They'll lose. Yeah, he'll be impeached. And then once he's out of office, he'll be indicted for, and then the bad guys, the really, really, really bad guys, intentionally bad guys, will come back in office. This is going to be fascinating to watch.
What do you mean when you say philosophical core when you have no philosophical core? I've heard you say that before.
I don't believe that Trump has any idea other than gut feelings. Gut feelings, that's what he's got. He's got no philosophical core where he examines what's good and evil, right and wrong from the basics. He doesn't think that way. I think what he does is based upon feelings, gut feelings. All he really knows is that he'd like the world to be stable, the way it was in like the 1950s in sitcoms. It would be nice if we lived in a Father Knows Best or Leave It to Beaver world. I mean, and I'm sympathetic, but that's as far as he goes. I don't think he has any core beliefs of any type at all, really.
Have you always felt that way about him back to 16?
Yes, I wrote in one of my interviews back in 2011 or 2012, that far back, where I said exactly what I'm saying now about him, and I believe I was exactly right. I mean, the guy's a hustler. He knows how to push psychological buttons on people, but he's basically a bullshit artist and a hustler. And would he be? I'm wondering because I don't know. You hear these anecdotes where, he can be friendly, he can be fun. Probably is. I don't know. Does he have any good personal friends that trust him and he trusts them? I don't know. But he's not my kind of guy, but he's much more my kind of guy than any Democrats that I can think of, like Kamala in particular. But the fact is that she came within an RKH of being elected. She really did. Very close. And the fact that half of the American people would actually vote for such a total sociopath. I mean, somebody who can't even, I mean, she's got no redeeming qualities whatsoever. The fact that it came that close to being elected tells me that this country is basically fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, look where our society is. I mean, I walk into a store and you walk out, you see people walking out, they're just glued to their phones like zombies. People don't talk. I mean, no. Paul said this too. He's like, the phones are supposed to be to talk, right? Everyone's got a cell phone, but nobody answers. They use it for entertainment. There's no communication anymore. How can a society, how can it survive? People can't even speak to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a real problem. And I don't think, look, what you're doing with your podcast and what I do in my own way in different things, we try to ameliorate things, basically because we'd like to see good triumph over evil. But just because that's what we want doesn't mean that we have a snowball's hope in the short term of succeeding. Now, maybe after things fall apart, well, maybe there will be a renaissance. These things happen. So I'm not making a gloom and doom prediction. I'm not trying to discourage anybody. I'm just telling people that things are very serious financially, economically, sociologically, militarily, ethically. And this is a time when the French phrase sauve qui peut, which means every man for himself, save yourself. It's important to remember that. You don't want to be washed away by the tidal wave. Get to high ground. Don't be stupid.
What do you suggest to somebody in the United States? Maybe they're, in their mid-20s, early 30s, and, they don't know what to do from this, hearing this conversation, and others think, all right, what should I do? I can't leave. I can't go abroad. I have to stay here.
You do?
Oh, that's a good point.
I mean, you still can. I mean, this isn't quite the Soviet Union or Mao's China. So yeah, you should go where there's more freedom and more opportunity. That's one thing. But but you're quite correct, Mike. Most people can't. They're burdened by debt. They got no savings. How can they go anywhere? They can't. They can't. They're living paycheck to paycheck, and they have lots of debt. So where are you going to go? And they won't. And they're so supine and stupid that they don't realize, wait a minute, I've got to change the way I'm living. I've got to start producing more than I consume and saving the difference so that I have some options in the future if I want to move where the weather suits my clothes, as it were. So, yeah, I understand and I'm sympathetic, but at the same time, not too sympathetic because you either control your own fate and destiny or you don't. Are you a slave or a serf or a free man who's got, you know, hard times to deal with, but you do something about it, or you roll yourself up in a ball and die. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Am I right or am I wrong?
You are well. We wouldn't be in this mess if people had applied what like my grandparents taught us. My parents, where you save money, you don't spend more than you can save. You don't finance things, even if you have an old car, but it's paid for rather than financing a car today. Is a decent car costs you 35 grand, if not more, and
Well, more.
5 year, 7 year notes. I think they go out even longer than that now.
Yeah, you never own the car. You never ever own it. You really don't. No, it's crazy. In fact, most people, or I don't say most, but many people, large plurality, lease the car. So instead of even having a crappy little asset with debt against it, they got immediate liability and nothing when they lease it. So yeah, you're right.
It, so again, it comes back to I mean we're so far gone. I mean, just what we've talked about in society, and another thing too is people are so entitled. Everything's
Oh
beneath
yeah.
them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Sure. It's just like that scummy princess that got elected, senator from Massachusetts, who pretended to be an Indian in order to get some freebies.
Elizabeth
Elizabeth
Warren,
Warren.
yeah.
Sure. Everybody thinks like that. Not only do they think like that, but obviously the people of Massachusetts must think she's great because they keep reelecting her.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about the cities and how and somebody said, well, the cities that are in Republican states are probably better off than the ones that are in blue states. I said, not really. They're all blue, all the cities, all the big cities are blue run.
Yes, they are.
They're all just
Yes.
Doug. Yesterday, I was driving home, right on the border of North Phoenix, North Scottsdale. Not a bad area. Bus stop. There was a homeless person. They had a canopy in the bus stop. They were laying in the canopy in the bus stop.
Yeah, no, right. And nobody thinks this is just improper. Nobody thinks that. It's just like they're they're part of the cosmic firmament, really.
Totally normal. And yet, and people look at me and they're like, I mean, my friends from Northeast Ohio, because they don't have that in the suburbs outside of Cleveland, because the winter, it keeps some of that at bay. But here, it's just getting worse and worse. And here's the other thing too: our standards have been set so low that people are like, "Well, it's not L.A." Yes, I recognize it's not L.A., but you watch it; it's just getting like worse and worse. It's not getting better. There's more of them.
No, trends in motion stay in motion until the trend collapses and you have a crisis, and then it can sort itself out in lots of different ways. Anyway, but we're heading towards a real crisis
I
as
don't.
this current trend accelerates.
I don't think we're far off from it either.
I don't think so. No, there's an excellent chance that we'll see something while Trump's in office, and then perversely, since for some reason he and the Republican Party are associated with the free market and capitalism, which they're not. But so when things hit the wall, the free market and capitalism will be blamed, and that will allow the Democrats to redouble what they want to do.
Do you think, I know I'm running out of time here with you, but do you think, I've made this statement, by the end of Trump's term, I don't know, I want to go so far to say he'll be hated, but I think he'll be disliked to the point where his base will have almost completely turned on him. You see that?
Yeah, they'll feel taken advantage of. They'll feel like they were used, which they were. Because don't forget, you know, Trump used to be a Democrat, and he was on the do I want to run for office as a Republican or a Democrat? Republican. That seemed like the better grift. He's got no principles. He's a man without principles.
Do you think he'll just? I mean, you talked about him potentially getting impeached or looking at jail at some point down the road. They'll come back after him. But if that doesn't occur, I could just see him drifting away where you won't even see him anymore. I think I could see that by the end of this term, that you just won't see that much of him.
What will happen to Trump after his term is over? God, that's worth a study to see what the analogs would be in different states and countries when the big man falls from power but isn't executed. I don't know. Well, listen, we live in an entertainment society. We used to be an agricultural society, then we became an industrial society. And now, because technology and soon robots and AI will produce things where it's like magic happen. We live in an entertainment society. The plebs just have to be amused so they don't, break stuff and do too much damage. But maybe not that too much anymore, because for good reasons, people everywhere in the world, with the exception of Africa south of the Sahara, are not reproducing enough to even maintain the population. So I don't know. Listen. I just like to watch this, like a giant reality show or maybe sitcom, a black sitcom, and I don't mean racially black. I mean black comedy type black sitcom.
Are you glad that you're older versus like somebody in their 40s or in their 20s based on the trends of where this is heading?
Oh no, I would much prefer to be to be 30 at my prime. Who wants to be old? I mean, let's admit it. I mean, there's a saying which I've always adhered to. It's better to be young, rich, handsome, and healthy than old, poor, ugly, and sick. So that answers the question as far as I'm concerned.
Where can people find you, Doug?
Well, I do a weekly show, bi-weekly, usually with Matt Smith, called Doug Casey's Take. Everybody should subscribe to internationalman.com, where I do a weekly editorial, but four other guys do absolutely great editorials too. It's free, so there's no and enjoyable. And read my novels: Speculator, Drug Lord, Assassin. The next one is Terrorist. And then they get really radical, assuming we ever do the last three. But there's no money in novels, and it's hard work. And I'm asking myself, do I really want to do hard work, or do I want to amuse myself, not amuse other people, since we live in an entertainment economy? So anyway, that's where people can reach out to me. I've got a lot of books on Amazon, which some of them are actually pretty good. In fact, they're all pretty good.
We talked about entertainment. One thing I wanted to add in, they're doing a UFC event at the White House next summer for the 250th anniversary. They're going to do an MMA fight on the lawn. Did you hear about that?
Oh, no, that's funny. I'd rather see a gladiatorial combat, because that would be, well, that's as close as we can come to a gladiatorial combat. I think it's wonderful. Sign of the times. Listen, enjoy the show.
Doug, as always, I appreciate our conversation. Thanks for coming on. And, I look forward to continuing to follow your work and, hearing you and Matt chat. I never miss an episode, so thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And I'll continue monitoring the impending collapse of Western civilization.
Mic drop.